If you've done years of therapy and you're still feeling triggered, or a lot of the emotional pain that you've been working on still doesn't seem like it's subsiding or healing, that could also include trauma. This is the number one reason why. So, this image on the left might be something that you can relate to. It feels like you've been retelling your story. You just keep getting caught up in that feedback loop, and it doesn't feel like things are aligning. You might feel exhausted. It's like you're talking about the same thing over and over again, versus person B, the person on the right, where initially, yeah, there's a lot of bundled up, tangled emotional pain, but then there's freedom. There's more alignment. There's a lightness. The hidden reason why you're still feeling triggered, and this is why insight, awareness, and doing all that work hasn't been working or hasn't been enough. It's because there's a physiological aspect in your body that needs to be addressed. Can you relate to this? You're doing all the work, but you still feel stuck. So on the left, the effort. You've done years of therapy, you're reading the personal development books, you've perhaps journaled the patterns, maybe got some awareness about it, but you're still, acting in a way that you don't want to act, or you're feeling a way that you don't want to feel. And maybe you actually perfectly understand your childhood. You understand why those things from your past are contributing to how you're feeling in the present. And the frustration is that the exact same triggers keep coming up. And you feel like you just can't break that cycle. And it's exhausting, right? And so you're left asking yourself, why am I still reacting the same way? Even all of this work, I'm doing all this work on personal growth and development. I'm seeking professional help. Why do I still feel the same way? So the first thing I want to emphasize is that there's absolutely nothing wrong with your insight. There's nothing wrong with the insight. You're trying to create change in the wrong place, however. And I don't mean it in the wrong place, like none of those things are valuable. I think they definitely are valuable, especially when in conjunction with the thing that actually moves the needle the most effectively in the right direction, the thing that actually resolves the emotional pain, helps to heal the things that are deep below the surface in your body. So insight is immensely valuable, but insight alone doesn't resolve the pressurized emotional charge that you're feeling, the thing that gets triggered. So I've talked about this before. I use the iceberg model frequently to illustrate what is above the surface and what's below the surface. And oftentimes we will utilize a lot of things that are above the surface and wonder why we're still feeling stuck. So let's go over what's above the water, which is also known as your conscious thinking brain. When you're using your logical thinking, you're intellectualizing, maybe you're analyzing these things in therapy, or you're jotting things down in a journal and you're analyzing these different patterns, and that's where the awareness resides, right? That is an excellent first step. But if it just stays there without looking below the surface, that's where we get stuck. So what's below the surface? This is where I talk about the nervous system and the body keeping the score. Have you heard of that book? It's a top seller, The Body Keeps the Score. Basically talking about how trauma and stress, emotional pain, resides in the body. And emotions, when we're talking about emotional pain and more specifically difficult to feel emotions, those are physiological. Those reside in the body. And so there are automatic emotional reactions that we often experience. This is all about what's below the surface. And it can just feel like there is a pressurized charge, the thing that just makes us react without thinking, right? That's where the triggers reside. So again, it's this like tangled up bunch of all of these things that feel, it's almost like this big ball of yarn, right? That's how the emotional pain can feel. And when we seek these different tools or resources, our hope is that we can untangle those things so we can feel better, right? We want to move towards experiencing freedom, the thing that actually feels lighter. We want to feel more like option B, right? Person B. That's what we want to feel like. So emotions, as I mentioned, are physiological. They're not psychological puzzles to solve. Again, it's helpful to have the understanding of why we feel the way that we do, but if we're only left with that, then we still feel stuck. So the myth is that emotions are a psychological phenomenon. They can be solved, they can be reasoned. If that worked, that's none of us would get stuck, right? We could understand, make sense of why we're feeling the way that we do, and then we just get unstuck, right? We're more like that straight string. We just feel like untangled. But the reality is that emotions are, they literally reside in the body, in your nervous system. And so they possess a chemical and a physiological reality. And we can't outthink our biology and our physiology. But if we learn how to work with it, that's where transformation happens. That's where we start getting untangled and we actually start feeling momentum in a positive direction. And we can actually experience freedom. I've seen it thousands of times. So triggers will always outpace the intellect. So even if you know that I shouldn't react this way, we still are going to have, you're still going to have a knee-jerk reaction until the root of that gets resolved in your body, right? It's like a knee-jerk reaction. It's automatic, it's physiological, it's instantaneous, it acts faster than you can think. The intellectual response is conscious, it's deliberate, it's slower. It requires the brain to be online and to be thinking about how do I want to respond. But intellectualizing is like blowing out the trick birthday candles. Do you know what I'm talking about? Those candles that are all lit, and I'm sure you've seen this before, like videos or clips of, the young child or the adult blowing out the candles and they're all blown out. And then suddenly 2 seconds later, they all come back. They relight, right? That's very similar to how unresolved triggers and emotional pain happen. We might talk about things and they feel like, oh, okay, I got that off my chest. And so now I can put that in the past because I've already worked through that, right? And then 2 days later, bam, you feel the same trigger as if you did no work in the past on resolving it, right? You're like, oh, I've been in therapy for a few years now. Why do I keep feeling triggered? It's very similar to those candles. It can look as if they're blown out, and then something kind of sort of reminds your subconscious of the original thing that caused that thing in the first place, and boom, it relights again, right? What we really want to do is extinguish that once and for all so those birthday candles don't keep relighting. So those triggers don't keep getting reactivated because they actually are deactivated at the root. So that's the hope for healing, is getting that physiological change in the body so that there's a permanent loss of its power over you. So this is a paradigm shift, right? We're moving from analysis, like psychoanalysis, talk therapy. Again, I'm not saying talk therapy doesn't have its place. It definitely does, especially for awareness and insight and coming up with solutions and things like that. But where we get stuck is if we don't incorporate how our bodies are wired, how emotions actually work. So when we're working with the body, I would say the mind and the body. Honestly, that's what we want, to have, the mind and the body both online as we're working through these things. But when we're working with the body and we actually can change the physiology that's residing in the body, that's when we can have lasting freedom. And that's when you're going to notice the change. That's when you're going to notice that, wow, the things that I want to do or say or behave or react, I'm actually doing them now because my mind and my body are aligned. They're on the same page. Versus, I want to go this way, but the body's like, nah, I'm still going to get triggered. You haven't actually processed these triggers or this emotional pain. So, I'm going to react rather than the mind being able to respond. When you can get these two on the same page, that's where you can experience profound positive changes. So this isn't about willpower. I know a lot of times people will get stuck on, man, they feel like they might actually beat themselves up. I've seen this before. Have you done this before? Are you guilty of this, of saying, man, maybe and I'm not doing this right, or I'm, you know, all this effort, but I'm still doing something wrong. It's not about willpower, because we can exert 100% willpower, but if the body is still in that fight or flight state with the emotional pain, if that is still activated, it's still that trick birthday candle residing in your body, it's always going to win, no matter how much willpower you have. It's when we can actually extinguish those trick birthday candles in the body, the triggers, the emotional pain, right? That's when we can actually experience the freedom. So be compassionate with yourself, be patient with yourself, have a little empathy, and give yourself some grace, because it's not a matter of you're just not putting in enough effort. If that were true, man, I've worked with so many people that have been putting so much effort into their healing. But when they understand this piece and they start incorporating this piece, that's when the shift happens. So be patient with yourself. So here's a map, a visual map of true emotional freedom. So the first part is the doorway, the insight, right? We don't know that we have a problem until we know that we have a problem, right? Awareness is the first step. And this is actually the greatest benefit of having therapy, of going to talk therapy. And your therapist can even point some things out to you, potentially, if they're a great therapist, that you may not have seen in yourself, right? It's a great way to begin to have the awareness and the insight of your patterns, perhaps things that you've been avoiding from your past that may be getting in the way of you actually showing up as your best self. It can actually help to point out to faulty beliefs that you've picked up that you didn't consciously pick up, but that maybe society just, presented to you, and you just unconsciously are thinking to yourself, maybe in the back of your mind, like, I'm not good enough. I'm unworthy. I don't deserve love. These are not things that you consciously pick up and decide that you want to believe those things, but they start playing out in your life. So awareness is the first step. This is a great place. Talk therapy is a great place for getting that insight. Journaling is a great place for getting that insight. Living your life and being self-aware is a great place for that first step of insight and awareness. Okay? Then it's like walking through the tunnel, and you want to walk towards the light, right? We all want to experience the freedom and the light. But if we get stuck in the tunnel of just analyzing or over analyzing, we're going to stay stuck in the tunnel, and we're not going to experience the light and the transformation and the freedom that it's just right on the outside, right on the edge, or on the end of the tunnel. We walk through the tunnel, we get to the light, the resolution. That's where we're incorporating the physiology. We're incorporating the understanding the mechanisms of how emotions work. So we've got our mind on board, right? We have the awareness, the insight. We've got that on board. And then when we bring the body on board as well, that's when we can step into the light and experience resolution. So the formula for lasting emotional change is having that conscious awareness, just like I just mentioned, updating your nervous system, supporting your body with how to actually get the issues out of the tissues. In other words, how to actually heal the emotional pain by working with the science of emotions physiologically. That will lead to lasting resolution. So the 3 rules for emotional integration. Number 1, patterns live in the body, not just in the mind. Insight is the doorway. Integration is the destination. Resolution eliminates the constant effort. So I'm just going to read these slides here regarding the first one, patterns living in the body. You cannot permanently solve physiological pressure with psychological insight. We just covered that earlier. Insight is the doorway. So psychoanalysis gets you started. It's a great starting point. The nervous system updates, working with the science of emotions, completes the biological, physiological cycle. Okay? When that physiological charge is neutralized, then you no longer have to rely upon willpower to manage your triggers. You don't have to like overexert yourself to manage these things that come up. It doesn't have to be that hard. So, how do you update your nervous system, or how do you actually blow those candles out once and for all? Those trick birthday candles is like, oh, just kidding, I'm still here, right? The emotional pain that you're experiencing, you want to actually get that out of your body once and for all. How do you do that? If willpower isn't the problem, what actually creates lasting change? What creates the spaciousness in your mind, in your body? What creates the thing that actually allows you to sleep all the way through the night without waking up and having your mind racing and fixated on things that have been stressing you out, maybe from years ago? What are the things that are actually going to help you cope and understand how to get along better with your loved ones and speak more kindly and actually from a more authentic place? What are the things that are actually going to boost your confidence again? What are the things that are actually going to get you back to yourself? Here is a fantastic starting point. This is something that actually works with the physiology. It only takes a few minutes. It's called the Pulse Points Stress Tool. It's a very simple, very gentle, and very effective mind-body stress reduction tool that can really help to calm your nervous system and start to get the intensity of those difficult emotions up and out of the body. So you can experience more ease and more relief and more peace in your mind and your body. So regardless of, anytime you feel a trigger, you can use this tool. This tool only takes a few minutes or so. The demonstration video will walk you through how to use this. The video is less than 4 minutes, so it is not taking up very much of your time at all. And it's a tool that you can use as often as you need to help get some of those issues out of the tissues. So that is a fantastic starting point. So I highly recommend downloading that. The link will be in the description below. So download that and then let me know if you have any questions or comments about it. And let me know how much it's been helpful for you and if you're open to sharing what it's been helpful for. So some people will use this for interruptions in sleep. Some people will use this for dealing with very specific emotions, such as anger that's been lingering, or frustration or resentment, feelings of vulnerability, feelings of shame or guilt. Maybe that's a big one. That's something that tends to weigh people down very heavily. Maybe you're dealing with grief or loss, or maybe you're like scared to step into something. Any kind of difficult emotion that you might be experiencing, this is a fantastic tool to begin to dismantle that. It's like blowing out the birthday candle, those trick birthday candles, with water so they don't keep relighting. So you can feel yourself again. So I hope that's helpful. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.